the only way for you to truly be authentically yourself in public is for you to be okay with yourself authentically as a person inside. And if you can't, like, if you're still struggling, there's nothing wrong with that. We've all been there, regardless of your sexuality. All struggled and grappled with identity issues, with self-image issues. If you are not 100% secure in who you are, you're not going to be able to be authentic with the rest of the world.
Welcome to the Choir Baton, a podcast designed to engage with people in stories, ideas, and inspirations stemming from choir. No other art form, no sport, no hobby, no business requires a group of people to execute a communal goal with just their voices. Join me, your host, Beth Philemon, as I interview guests who are singers, teacher conductors, instrumentalists, and community members. Together, we'll ask questions, seek understanding, and share insight from our experiences in life and in choir. Hey, Choir Baton, welcome back to another episode of the podcast. Today's episode is with my dear friend, Emily Campbell. And we've actually never met in person, but she's one of those people I can't remember not knowing just about or having in my life. Emily and I met through Instagram about 2 years ago now, I guess, from this story that she tells, although it feels longer than that, back when people really weren't posting about choir all that much on social media, but especially on Instagram. And one of the things I first remember seeing when Emily started popping up on my feed from hashtags related to choir was that she was very open about her personal life and the fact that she had just recently gotten married to a woman. And I was so moved by Emily's openness about being gay and being a teacher on her choir teacher Instagram. For many reasons. One, I had just had a friend that had gone through in North Carolina some major ridicule from school administration and students and that school community about not feeling comfortable in being out. Similarly, in my lifetime, I have witnessed how people's viewpoints about the subject have truly changed. And quite frankly, my own have changed from what I was religiously brought up into believing that being gay meant. And we had personal family friends that was an influence in their life and kind of skewed my perception. And quite frankly, it was a guy I sang with in choir in high school who I was the first person that he came out to. And I will never forget being so honored with him sharing that with me and feeling comfortable to talk with me about that. And yet also seeing the pain in his eyes and face and heart about wrestling with his own religious upbringing in regards to homosexuality and wrestling with that. I am so grateful for that, not just that conversation and string of conversations that friend and I continue to have, but also how my viewpoints and understandings have completely changed over the past 15 years since that moment. And quite frankly, a lot of the world and a lot of the United States has changed in this a lot. But we would be remiss if we did not bring attention to the thousands of teachers that are throughout America and the world that are in places that do not feel comfortable in sharing who they love in a classroom setting for fear of retaliation or how that might come back on them. This is still very, very real for many teachers. And quite frankly, it's very real for many of our older teachers that are gay and have spent many years in silence about this for fear of what might be said or what might be done. And of course, like many things, there's spectrums of people and how they have chosen to share their part of their life with the community. But I, again, was so just captivated, not just by Emily's spirit, but by her openness in this. And we are celebrating Pride Month. Coincidentally, this episode lined up with Pride Month. And I really encourage you to go and check out episode 14. This is episode 41. Ironically, I did not mean for them to be reciprocal numbers. I could not have planned that even if I had tried. But I really encourage you to go listen to episode 14 as well, with Drew Fifield, who sings with the New York City Gay Men's Chorus as well. There is fascinating information in there about his experience as a singer and finding identity within the chorus. And in this episode, you're going to hear Emily talk about how she has leaned into her identity as a gay woman, as a choir director, as someone sharing on Instagram, and just in her overall musicianship. If you are struggling with this, struggling with how to be open within your community about people that you love and are attracted to, you can always reach out to me. I don't have personal experience in that as someone that is straight, but I highly encourage you to reach out to me, and I can put you in touch with someone that can speak to a better experience and have better advice for you on that, as well as encourage you to reach out to Emily as well. If you are listening to this and you have been through that and you have lived that and you are willing to be an advocate for someone or a mentor for someone within that as they walk this road and try to understand and navigate and figure out how to communicate, which I hate that it even has to be like said like this, right? In a perfect world, no one should have to be wary of how they are communicating with one another in who they love. But this is the world in which we live in, and I choose to not dismiss that, because as soon as we act like that doesn't exist, then we are not allowing a place for people to share and talk and communicate about how they too are struggling with being out within their school communities. This is so very real. If you are a choir director that struggles with that, I encourage you to also listen to Emily's episode, not just because of hearing her story and the strength that it's given her, but to also hear her share about the students that she has impacted as well. And if you are not gay and if you are straight, it is so important for you to listen to this episode as well. I continue to learn every single time I engage with a friend that has gone through being a teacher in a community that this is still something new to talk about, and learn again how fortunate, privileged, whatever word you want to use there, these are things that I never truly really thought about. And we can continue to be better allies for our teacher friends around us and also for our students. Much as we would like to pretend that this world is so accepting, we know so much so that it is not. So please enjoy this episode with my dear friend, Emily Campbell. Make sure when you finish this episode, you go and also listen to Drew Fifield's episode, in which we directly discuss being a singer in the Gay Men's Chorus and how that has helped him, again, find his identity, both as a person, but then in corporate America. Drew actually, at the time we were interviewing, was working at Industrious. Drew actually now works for Facebook. A really cool perspective there of a singer in the community. Thank you so much to Emily for being a guest on the podcast, and enjoy this interview with @Choir Campbell from Instagram. Well, Choir Baton listeners, welcome back to another episode of the Choir Baton. I'm your host, Beth Philemon, and I'm so excited to have a special guest and dear IG friend with me, Miss Emily Campbell. Welcome, Emily.
Hi, Beth.
I started following you, I think was it last summer or the summer? No, it was almost 2 summers ago. Mm-hmm. And I think it's the beautiful thing about this Instagram community that like suddenly, I don't know, you just end up not remembering the day you met, but you also don't remember a time when you were like a part of it and other people weren't there.
For sure.
And so I have asked Em to come on today and tell us a little bit about her story, but also talk about something that I think is really an important story for our community to talk about. It's important for everyone to hear, but especially for teachers that are struggling with how much of their identity to bring into the classroom, and we're at a unique time in our lives where some, I think, new teachers don't even think twice about it, and some teachers that are in like the middle part of their careers are still like waffling with it, and other teachers don't as well. So anyways, she's just the bomb, and thanks for being here.
Thanks for that really nice intro.
Yeah, I think the world of
Um,
you. So let's start and talk, like, let's just talk first off music, first and foremost. So tell us where you're at, your jam.
yeah. So this is my 8th year teaching, and I teach middle school choir. And I started off as a high school and middle school choir teacher, half-time at each. So I was always a pretty musical little kid. Was very much immersed into like musical theater as a small child. Started taking piano when I was a little kid, and decided when I was 15, I was on a college visit to Ithaca College, uh, and I originally was like, I knew that I wanted to be a teacher. I knew that I wanted to help people. I had that in my blood. My mom's a social worker. I always knew that like helping people was part of my calling. And I always thought that education was where I was going to end up. Thought it was going to be English language arts. And then I decided, no, it's not what I want to do at all. I want to teach choral music. And I stuck with that plan since I was 15. And I went to Otterbein University, at the time college, which is just northeast of Columbus, Ohio, and got my bachelor's of music education there in voice, and then got hired right out the gate where I student taught, and taught there for 6 years. And then I actually made my teacher Instagram when I transferred jobs. I was like, new school, new beginnings, let's start something new. And I knew that I had seen people's popping up, and I was like, this seems like a really nice way to connect with people and to get ideas, and also to reach out to my students before they even met me. So that's when I
Oh,
started.
that's cool.
Yeah, so that's when I started it, the summer before I started my current job.
So that's why I didn't see you too soon before that, because you didn't have it too
I
soon
didn't
before
have
then.
it.
Because
No, no.
so let's unpack that just a smidge about the role social media has played for you as a teacher, both as a teacher with other teachers and as a teacher to your students. Because your account, you interact with both, right?
I do, yeah. Um, I I don't like when I started it, I didn't really know what my intention was. I think my intention originally was to use this as a communication tool for my program, but I didn't want to make it just about my program, because I thought to myself, well, if I leave, then I want to take all this with me, and I don't want to have to hand it over to
Right.
somebody else. So that's why I made it about, like, I made it my account. And then as I started, like, the weeks following, as I started following more people and seeing other people's accounts, started engaging with them as well. And it kind of became a mix of both,
Yeah.
where my kids are still on it and they still follow me, but a lot of the interaction I do now and throughout the whole process has been with other educators as well. So I would
Well,
say it's like, I don't know, 40% kids and parents, 60% outside people.
so I think that also is like a testament to this theme, right? Is who you are is who you are. And I'm not hating on anyone that has like a separate teacher account versus a separate personal account. We all have our own ways of doing things and giving information and being a part of our communities that we're working in. But like that in and of itself is a testament to you, right? Like, because I see the same person that's showing up talking to their kids on Instagram is showing up the exact same way talking to this teacher community on Instagram. And I love that.
Thanks. I feel that that's just who I am. That's how I would talk to them in real life. Um, so why get a filtered version of, I mean, it's filtered. It's not like, but I still do have a personal account that existed before anything did.
Right.
But I just figured, why you get what I'm trying to say.
Mm-hmm.
It was just easier for me to be authentically who I am
Right.
and not necessarily have to, and I'm using air quotation marks right now because I
Right.
understand this is a podcast. Um, you know, uh, be professional. Like I am
Right.
professional. It's
Right.
a professional account, but I'm also just
Real.
who I am.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Have you had any? I know some teachers are anxious about getting involved, and different districts have different rules and stipulations for engaging on social media with students and parents. Have you had any, I don't know, like pushback, or are there certain rules in your district that they have you be mindful of?
Not necessarily rules. I think they just tell us to proceed with caution.
Right.
Um, and I kind of have limits for myself.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and we're recording this during COVID,
Right.
so things are a little bit different right now. But before that, um, I kind of said to all my kids and parents, if you need me, email me.
Right.
That's my professional contact. Don't DM me.
Right.
Because it's not a reliable source of me getting back to you. And if I'm not following you back, it goes into different files and things like that. And then I don't
Mm-hmm.
see anything. Um, so I kind of had a little bit of issues with that with kids DMing me a lot.
Right.
And I had to kind of squash that a little bit. Things are different now because we're all at home and
Right.
they still email me a lot, but now I have them. I want to engage with them in whatever capacity that I can. So yeah, sure, they're DMing me pictures of their pets and I don't care.
Yeah.
But no, I haven't had really any pushback from the district.
Cool.
It's a smaller community. It's not like a
Mm-hmm.
teeny tiny community, but a lot of the families are involved in their teachers' lives in different ways because a lot of people are friends with one another, and it's
Right.
just that kind of vibe.
Right.
So the understanding is, if you're professional and you know how to use it, then
Right.
we're cool with you using it.
Right. Yeah, I think it can be such a powerful tool. And like most things in life, right, can be easily abused if you're not careful. But I'm always so grateful when different districts enable us particularly to utilize Instagram, because I think it's such a more impactful medium for us to interact with the community versus something like Twitter with just 140 characters.
Right. My old district, they were so big on Twitter, like tweeted out all the time. And at the time, that was 2012, 2000 through whatever.
Right.
It was really popular to use
Right.
Twitter, and now things are shifting towards photo and video mediums.
Right.
And you can see that with the kids being obsessed with TikTok and everything like that. So it just seems like the platform that works the best, that
Yep.
is easily to connect, because I don't know, people feel comfortable talking to their phones. So
It's the funniest thing. So like, I do a lot of stuff on my phone, but even my last couple of years of in the classroom, I think it's a perk of living by yourself. Like you realize that if you're going to talk to certain people at home, like you have to get used, like you talk through your phone, I guess. And people are always like, I don't know how you hold up your phone and do all this stuff. And now I see so many more people doing it amidst COVID. I'm like, because sometimes you're just you and you just learn from it. Well, I want to circle back then around to this theme of being authentically you and our topic today, which is as a teacher who is gay and as a teacher who's married to a woman, what that has meant as a part of your journey to show up as being authentically you within this. And we all have different stories. I was profoundly affected by a friend who's a band teacher friend of mine that like did not feel comfortable sharing his sexuality. And honestly, like it's not that he didn't feel comfortable, but he wasn't very open about it because he received pushback from his very small town community. And those kinds of things exist, but like when it's a friend of yours, it's always more personal. And it's one of the things I fell in love with you most about is that, like, before I really even knew you, you were sharing wedding photos of you and your wife. And I was like, I have chills thinking about it. Like, teachers that feel comfortable enough to show up in front of their kids like that are showing not just their kids it's okay to be who you are, but also being examples not only to other teachers, but then to straight teachers ourselves too, like of how we can attempt to like share your stories more. So that was a lot of me talking, but thank you. And now let's kind of like shift into that.
Yeah.
I don't know where you want to pick up from that kind of.
Well, I'll just kind of explain where my journey has gone through me being out and open in the classroom, because it's not, if you met me 8 years ago, it was not the same story that it is today. So when I first started teaching when I was 22, I was out to my friends, but I was not out to my family yet. And I was at the time not in a serious relationship, and still struggling with my sexuality. I think a lot of people, and this is not to invalidate anyone who is bisexual or pansexual, but when you're going through the process, it's a lot easier to kind of still have one foot in the door in heterosexuality than to just completely dive into the pool of gayness. I don't know how else to put it eloquently. So when I first started teaching, I told my gay male co-teacher that I was bisexual. And immediately he was like, well, that's a lie, because we all know that you're just gay and you're just trying to cling on to hope that you're straight. That's a whole nother story for another time, but whatever.
Right.
So from then on, I was like, well, now I can't tell anybody, and I'm just going to.
Yeah, because he shut you down.
Yeah.
He completely invalidated how you were feeling.
So I just was like, well, it doesn't matter. Like, I don't have anybody in my life. Like, that facet of my life doesn't matter right now. So whatever. So for the first like 3 years of teaching, I just was like pretty private, didn't talk about it, whatever.
Meanwhile, you're also struggling too, right? Like, who am I? Where am I? What? Yeah.
How am I going to tell my parents? I come from a Catholic family who my mom is an open-minded person because she is in the mental health field, but also is a devout Catholic. And I remember when I was in college and one of my friends who was extremely female presenting like me ended up getting engaged to a woman. I will like never forget my mom saying, her poor mother. And I thought right then and there, I was like, I'm never going to be able to tell them. And, she has probably had these visions of me getting married in the church. And I mean, I did too, as a kid who grew up in that really structured faith, because, well, yeah, each religion has their own thing, but catechism especially, there's a lot of that, and a lot of guilt, and a lot of shame and things like that. I'm not knocking it at all, and it's still, those memories are still good parts of my life, but at the same time, my mom's feelings around it made me scared to say anything. So
our parents mean so much to us, regardless of our relationship with them. I mean, that's so normal. I mean, natural. Yeah.
So this whole time, it's like my first couple of years of teaching, which are awful because I'm replacing somebody who's been there forever. And that's all, again, another story unto itself. And I'm being verbally harassed at work and wrestling with my identity. all while trying to date.
Right.
And it was just like a very tumultuous time of my life. So when I'm like 23, 24, I'm in a relationship with somebody, not a healthy one, but it was long distance, and I was tired of lying to my parents about where I was going all the time.
Right.
So I finally drove to their house one day and told them, and my dad is that typical dad who pats you on the back and goes, "We always knew." And my mom just sits there, like, she's like, "We still love you," but she's not really saying anything. And I'm like, how did you know? And my dad looks at me, he's like, "Nobody cares about their friends as much as you do. Come on, Emily." It was never about like attraction. It was about like the emotional context of it, which is like the most lesbian thing in the whole entire world. But so that, like, right after that, that relationship ends, and I meet my wife on Tinder. We swiped right on one another. And again, I have no shame telling this because it's real life. And my mom is always like, "Can't you like say that you met at a bookstore somewhere?"
A
I'm like,
bookstore.
No, Mom, sorry, you're getting the real deal. We met,
Nowadays, though, who hasn't met someone online? I mean, like,
seriously. And it's the way the world turns now. I mean, if I hear that people met in real life, I'm like, wow, that's an anomaly. So regardless, so we start dating, and it gets serious. And the first time I really tell my students about it is after my wife proposes to me. Like, I think they start figuring out who she is because she starts coming to events and she's always around. And nobody really asks who that is. Like, it's just kind of assumed that she's my girlfriend. But then when I had a ring on my finger, I kind of had to explain, and they were just so overjoyed and so excited for me, and there was no pushback from parents or anybody at all.
so when you go to share this, like, again, you're very authentic in yourself and who you share. Was there a little bit of nervousness, though?
Oh, heck yes, because this is the first time I'm ever outwardly saying I'm with a woman.
Was in front of your middle school children?
Oh, high school.
Oh, high school. It's okay.
High school at the time. Yeah. So yeah, I was nervous, but even though I knew that they picked up on who she was, and we were just best friends who hung out all the time, and she came and helped build sets with us and things like that. Like, this is not just a friendship, but it's the first time that I outwardly say, and I don't even think that I said, I'm gay. Because this is still new territory for me.
Right.
And that job was great in many ways, but I was an assistant director, and I was looking for a place to call my own and a program to call my own. So I finally got the job where I am now, and I started the fall right after we got married. We got married in June, and I started in August. And I was putting together my About Me PowerPoint, and I was like, this is a completely fresh start. Nobody knows me from a hole in the wall.
Right.
I mean, they've probably all gossiped about me because, they all want to know who the new lady is, and they Facebook crept me and things like that and all that stuff. And I just was like, I'm just going to put a slide of our wedding photos up and be like, this is my wife. She's a nurse. We got married this summer. Here's pictures from our honeymoon. And that was it. And it just became a thing.
Yeah. But didn't a student come up to you on that was it either that first day or when you told your high schoolers?
At the first day at the middle school.
Okay.
When I told them, and like with tears in their eyes, "Thank you for being my teacher. Like, I'm so happy you're my teacher because I'm pan," or I can't remember exactly how they identified. But it was so meaningful. And it's been really wonderful to be visible to those kids, because I don't know. I think about if I had an adult that I loved and trusted and they were visible to me, would my life's trajectory been different? Would I have been able to figure out things earlier? Maybe not even that, but just like confide in somebody and have an adult to talk to about it if I was worried or scared or having issues or whatever. So, and now I've had several students be able to do that with me. And I feel really honored to be that person in their life. And what I want more than anything is to be able to start a middle school GSA at my school. But that is something that, and I'm putting this in air quotation marks, the community's not ready for yet, which is hard for me to grapple with, because the high school has one. And I think a lot of people think at the middle school level, these kids, it's a phase. They don't know what they're talking about. They have the internet now. They have all these ideas in their head and they're not.
Right.
But they know. And maybe it's not exactly how their path is going to end up, but they have some idea, and it would be nice for them to all be able to get together because they need that support.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Absolutely. Well, and I think too, within our field of choral music, like there's the field, right, of teaching, and then there's this field of choral music as well. And like, I think in choral music, and tell me if I just have the wrong generalization in my head. I'm always trying to be cognizant of what biases we all have towards certain things, but I think that it's one thing to be a gay man in choral music, and that's, I mean, and then we have that even within society, right? Like to be the GBF, and if you don't know what that means, a gay best friend. But and even more so, that's like done in a woman to male thing, or to be the, I guess I'm not going to say that other word, but like the hag of that, and it's quote unquote like cool to have a gay best friend, a male gay best friend, or that sort of thing. But it's not always talked about. I don't ever really see people talk about it in regards to women in choir.
No, I mean, I don't want to say that it's expected that you're going to have gay men as choral directors, but it kind of is.
Right, which is a problem in and of itself. Yeah.
I think about the number of male choir directors that I know and the percentage of them that are gay. It's pretty high.
Right.
So, and we could go on another tangent about being a woman in choral music as well. We kind of did the other.
We can go there. Yeah.
Yeah. But there's a stigma that comes around being a woman as a choir director in general,
right.
And then as a gay woman as a choir director. I think a little bit different perception in like higher level groups in terms of age, like in terms of collegiate groups and high school groups.
What have you observed or felt in that?
See, a lot of it has to do with my personality. Like I think I'm just that nurturing, caring type. And so I don't necessarily come off as the strong, well, I'm stubborn, but not, I think we all are in our own ways, but the strong, witchy type of director. Maybe some people see me as that way because I can be pretty, I don't want to say demanding, but like I have high expectations, and I know like my kids know what I expect of them and things like that. And it may be perceived differently than when a man asks for that.
Hands down, it 110% is perceived differently.
But I think I also have a different experience because of how I present. So, and you can't tell now because you're listening to this, and also COVID and sweatpants. But usually I like wear lots of makeup and like I have long hair and I wear feminine clothes. And so a lot of the time the reaction is, "You're gay? Like, are you sure?" Um, because I don't look like your typical girl off of the L Word. So I think I get treated differently too because of that. I feel like if I had a short haircut and wore motorcycle jackets all the time and combat boots, that I would. Beth is laughing at me right now.
I'm just having this mental image of you in a
I
motorcycle. You do have a
I do
motorcycle.
own combat boots, but I think, yeah, I think a lot of it has to do with presentation as well.
And so just to unpack that too, again, when we say like how you present or presentation, meaning how you look
Gender,
and how people interpret that.
yeah, yeah. I feel like because I fit the normal cisgender woman middle school teacher, like she looks like that, she looks like the choir version of Miss Frizzle. We're okay with her because, there's still part of her that fits our heteronormative narrative. I think that's also why I don't have as hard of a time. I know that things are probably said about me by kids, by parents. They are never said directly to my face. So in that way, I've been blessed. And I have grown so much that I just don't care anymore if people say that kind of stuff about me.
Yeah.
Because that's a reflection of who they are and their insecurities, and not who I am as a person and an educator. Because if they got to know me for 5 minutes, they know that my number one priority in the classroom is loving these children and teaching them how to love music. And that's my number one goal. And shoving my philosophies and my agendas down their throats is not.
Right.
But I'm happy to be a open and honest person, so that if their child feels like they need somebody to confide in, I would love to be that person for them.
Yeah. Part of it, I believe, is age, right? And experience that gets us to this point that says how you speak about me says a lot more about you than it says about me. And we can't learn age and experience on the spot within that. However, what would you say to a new teacher or conductor, or teacher conductor, same thing? But some people identify more as a conductor as a teacher. So anyways, what would you say to someone that is new or like in a music ed program that is already trying to figure out how and what to do this? What tips would you have for them to prepare themselves for that mindset?
I would say everybody's path is different. You have to do it when you are ready. No, the sorry. The only way for you to truly be authentically yourself in public is for you to be okay with yourself authentically as a person inside. And if you can't, like, if you're still struggling, there's nothing wrong with that. We've all been there, regardless of your sexuality.
I wanted to, yes.
We've all struggled and grappled with identity issues, with self-image issues. If you are not 100% secure in who you are, you're not going to be able to be authentic with the rest of the world. And I'm like not 100% secure with every aspect about me. But I feel that because like the parts of myself that I choose to share, those are the parts that I have not settled with, but like accepted, and they've become a part of me. So I'm able to give myself 100%.
Right.
And don't let anybody try to have you navigate this on their timeline. You're doing it on yours. And if anybody outs you, shame on them. And because nobody understands how it feels to be you other than you. And if that's not part of your personality, if you don't want to share this part of your life, that's okay.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. You don't have to share that with others.
I mean, it's just who I am. Like, my mom used to joke around, like, when I was a little kid, I used to go up onto the playground and run around to everyone and be like, hi, I'm Emily, let's be friends. And that's just kind of how I am. Like, I just enjoy human interaction and meeting people who have similar like-minded views as mine and who share interests as mine. And so if I can be myself, it makes it a lot easier for you to get to know me. Whether you're a colleague, a fellow professional on Instagram, or one of my kids.
Right.
So, but that's my biggest advice to people who are new and who are struggling with this is there's no set of instructions. You just have to do it when it feels right, whatever that means. And that was in air quotes again too, because it might feel right that day, and then the next day it might not. And you might say, okay, well, now it's not the time, and that's perfectly fine too.
Right.
So.
Right. No, I love that. I think hearing that is such a relevant mindset to take, whether you are straight, gay, bi, pan, anywhere in there, is realizing that like it is about loving yourself, and it has to come from a place of personal self-acceptance, and that's hard. And there's not a book. I mean, there's plenty of books out there that tell you how to do it, but there is actually no book for you to help you get to that. You just have to be mindful that it's a process.
Yeah. And it takes, a lot of self-discovery and sometimes therapy.
Amen.
And I'm not ashamed to say that either. Like, I think regardless of where you are in terms, like, if you feel like you've been affected by a mental illness or not, it's just nice to have somebody to talk to be that that outside party in your life to kind of, that's not biased. But yeah, I didn't get there overnight. This took a long time. It was a long journey, and it wasn't always easy. And there were times when it was extremely difficult and where I felt like I was never, ever going to get to say something. And there are still times now where I'm baffled by people's reactions sometimes. But
how so? Like, what kind of reactions?
This one woman I work with, she found out that I was open and out. She's like, I just think it's so amazing that you're so out there and you're so brave, and my daughter's gay too. And so in that moment, I recognized that was something that she was struggling with too. But I never wanted, like, I hate when people say you're so brave. I'm not brave in that way. This is who I am. And if you feel validated by people saying that you're brave, I don't want you to take this as
you shouldn't feel.
Yeah, you should. For me personally,
right,
that is not a moment of courageousness. That is just me being me.
right.
So I'm really not a fan when people tell me that I'm so brave.
Which actually shocks me, because I know that you love Sarah Bareilles so much, and every time you say brave, I hear her song running through my head, and I feel like, okay, sorry, ADD moment. Yeah, keep going. What?
No, that's pretty much, but like, I don't get negative reactions. They're just kind of things like that.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, but both you and your wife wore the dress. How did you decide? And who proposed? And did you propose back? So it's a lot of these things where there are stereotypes in heteronormative relationships, and we don't fit that mold.
Right.
It's the whole age-old question, who's the man in the relationship? And my answer always is, there isn't one. That's the point. Because people have their mind wrapped up that it has to be a certain way. There has to be a suit, and there has to be a dress, and there has to be somebody who pays the bills, and there has to be someone who cooks. we fall into a lot of those things, but we switch roles on a lot of those things too. We don't fit into a normal cookie cutter role of what a normal marriage looks like.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's good for people to see too.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
So
It's funny, like listening to that as I experience. I'm not trying to be like, well, I relate perfectly to what you're going to too, but
no.
like it is interesting on a different like side of being single and in my mid 30s and certain things like that people like, well, why aren't you married yet, or
Yep.
this kind of other thing. And it's just a further testament and example to the fact of your story and your message that things don't have to fit into boxes. They shouldn't, they can't fit into boxes ultimately, and we can't try to make ourselves fit into them as well.
Yeah.
I want to take a quick like pathway then into something we've already briefly touched on, and that's just being a female in choral music. And especially as we have a lot of gay male or straight male, right? We have a lot of straight male friends too in choral music, but being a female in this field is very, very different, right? And I mean, you hit the nail on the head that being a gay female but presenting in this like atypical way of expectations that people have for how a gay female would present is like has maybe been easier or harder. I don't know, you kind of alluded to how that has influenced people's perceptions of you as a choir director as well.
I think people have a certain expectation of what a middle school choir director is supposed to look like sometimes as well. And I think that plays into it too. And it's not me feeding into that mold, because a lot of it is just who I am. I am a nurturing, caring person at heart. And the goal, one of the main goals of middle school music, yes, is to make great music and to have high expectations and not say the words, oh, it's just middle school, because that's another one of my huge pet peeves, is people sinking and lowering their expectations due to the age of the kid.
Right.
But my main goal is to foster a place where they love choir.
Right.
And so that's why I feel, that's why I was saying I feel like I fit that mold better because of the way my gender presentation is, because I look like, the happy-go-lucky middle school teacher that you see on Instagram who typically is heterosexual. But there have been so many times where I feel like I haven't been taken seriously because of that thing I just said on its own, and because I'm a woman, and because I'm still in my early years of teaching. And there's been a lot of times where somebody else in the room has said the same exact thing that I have, and everyone goes, oh yeah, I totally agree with you. And I think to myself, well, didn't I just say that 15 minutes ago?
Right.
So
yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Or they say something not as good as what you say, or yeah, I mean, I have multiple instances of that in which or they act a certain way, right? Like I think that was something we kind of talked about too, where and it goes to you speaking of like nurturing and like females being nurturing, or females, if they are nurturing but in like a sterner way, how they are perceived as being a rhymes with witch sort of thing, and how that's tricky because in some ways you have to own it and just be who you are, but then you also I don't know, maybe this is my own thinking through things that I'm adding in here too, but like how much then do you balance of perception versus reality?
right. And the other thing I was thinking of too, like the difference between men and women that I've noticed, at least this year, because I have taken on a lot of extra responsibilities that I was not ready for necessarily. But
That
had
were
to,
not part of your job.
were not part of my job, but just kind of like full force had to go into it because of situational basis things. Like when women do that, they're, at least in my experience, they're perceived as a workaholic who values their job over their family life. And when men do it, it's just, oh, well, that's what they do.
Yeah.
And that's their lifestyle. But when I do it, you know, oh, she's overworking herself. And yes, I was, to an extent, and that is true.
Right.
But at the same time, I feel like the same situation with a guy would be talked about differently.
Right. Or two, we would take it on as women because it needs to be done.
Mm-hmm.
And at times we think it needs to be done. And to our detriment, at times we take on more than we should be because we don't want to say no. And we don't, because also that of us saying no will be perceived as a bunch of other things too. So we just take it on just to do it because it's easier to take it on than to deal with all the other stuff versus a man. Not always, but like in general terms, will say, no, I'm not going to do this. And then he has boundaries and he shouldn't do that. And
Right.
then he doesn't do it.
The fact that I have to, in my mind, think it'll be so much easier to tell them that I'm not doing this anymore because we're going to have a baby is the silliest. Like, why can't I just say, no, I can't do this anymore because I can't do this anymore? Why do I have to have a huge excuse as a woman to say no? Why do I feel so guilty? And why am I afraid of what the reaction is going to be when I say no? Why am I so, afraid that I'm going to disappoint the children? Like, someone else will step in, someone else will do it. But yeah, no, I resonate with that a lot. And you and I have talked about that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you just hit a huge nail on the head of having children. And we can edit this out if we can't, but you guys are close to having children within the next
Couple
year-ish, 2, 3. Yeah. And,
Yeah.
and we've talked about this off air, but of also, it's one thing if a woman says, well, I can't because if I have kids versus then if you don't have kids, what's your excuse?
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. We could continue with this for a very long time. Maybe that would be a really interesting interview for several of us to sit down and kind of talk about this and not, and it's not that we're like pointing fingers at people. It's just honestly real conversations with two friends that we've had similar conversations off air too about this. And I think that it's so important. That's one of the things I love about this medium of podcasting is that sometimes you are having these thoughts and you want to have these conversations with other people, but you don't know who to turn to and you don't know where to go or who else is having these thoughts. And so sometimes people aren't as open as we are. Emily, shocking. I'm sure you're like me. Who are these people? How? What? No, but this is an outlet for people to hear and to feel heard and know that, you're not alone in some of these thinkings, which then also circles back to our main theme of today, which is just owning who you are, not feeling this need to be placed in a box by knowing that you weren't created to be in a box, whether you are gay, straight, bi, pan, anything.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, I'm not going to say thank you for being brave, and I hope I didn't say brave earlier, but I know you don't want to hate me. Okay. I was like, oh, have I said that before?
No, you haven't.
No, but I just want to say.
If you did, like, I feel like I'm not the kind of person who's going to be like, Rah! I feel, okay.
No, I totally get you. I'm just giving you a hard time. Again, I want to say thank you. I've already like fangirled enough about this, but like, thank you for just being first and foremost a really great friend, a really great example to people on Instagram, whether it's a student, whether it's a parent, whether it's a fellow teacher, whether it's someone that was just like, oh, Choir Campbell, what's this? I'm going to see what this cool teacher is doing in their classroom. Like, it is so evident that you love your kids, that you love what you do, and that you are just, I just love watching. I just love watching your life on Instagram. But then also as a part of that, for just being comfortable with being you and like showing up who you are and who you love. I think that it doesn't have to just be I know that it's not just a great example for people that are gay, but for people that are straight or people that are not in relationships or people that are in relationships. Like, just that authenticity is not always common. So thank you.
Thanks, friend. I appreciate you.
Thanks. I appreciate you. If people want to follow you, it's at Choir Campbell.
It's very original, I know.
And she's awesome. She'll probably respond to your DMs a million times better than I respond to DMs. And go check out the awesome work that she's doing there. But I'm sure if you have anything you'd like to talk or questions or whatever, they can reach out to you there as well.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Thanks so much for listening to the Choir Baton podcast. And until the next episode, let's get more people singing. All right, y'all. I hope that you loved that episode just as much as I loved recording it. Please go follow. I started to say Choir Campbell. She actually is Choir Campbell in my cell phone. Please go follow Emily. See the awesome things that she is doing. Like I shared in the opening, if you are someone that has walked a path of Emily and is a leader within your school district of how school district and school itself, of how to be comfortable in sharing in a community where you fear retribution for sharing who you love, reach out to me and I would love to kind of keep you on my list of someone. If a teacher comes to me that says, I need someone to talk to, I need a mentor within this. Similarly, I just want to encourage us as straight allies to be mindful of this as well and to be open to our conversations when we are always asking colleagues if they're married, who their spouse is, continuing to have an open and mindful mindset about this. We are such an amazing community here at Choir Baton, and we are far from perfect, but I am so proud of what we are ultimately building together. 2 last little plugs for the day, if you will. And one is, if you got my email today, you saw that we now have Choir Baton merch. It is out and you can click the link on that. You can also go to the Choir Baton website, click the tab that says merch, and it will take you to another site right now. Eventually it will all be integrated into one, but you can go check out all the Choir Baton goodies that you have there, including the More People Singing shirt. And finally, for the month of June, I just want to reiterate the importance of taking the Sense of Self course for all of you that are a part of the teaching membership. It's divided into 3 components that are designed to help you think about what your goals are professionally, as a musician, in your classroom, and what your goals are personally, and how you can begin to see where connections within those are built. I have had really great feedback from people that have taken it and finding that it's been so helpful for them as they've come away from such a crazy, crazy year to recenter and rethink about what we're all about, what's important, what can you do versus what you can't do. My name's Beth Philemon. Special thanks to our producer, Maggie Hemedinger. Thanks to all of you for listening, and let's get more people singing.